Hello and welcome to Ukraine, my friends. Seeing me with a helmet is a rare sight.
Look at this beauty behind me. It's the Caesar.
We are on an artillery position of the 155th Brigade Anne of Kiev, which was formed and equipped in France. We are at the Pokrovsk front, where gunshots can be heard all around us. Well, friends, the streets are 6 kilometers to the left. There are the FPVs hitting here. We had some carcasses on the road.
The road is quite alright there. But well, we're still going to continue driving quite fast, because that never. There are still civilians, still people living, so you see all around us, even though we are still 5-6 kilometers from the front. Everywhere you have these future lines of defense, so all the trees, obviously there are trenches everywhere. As you can see, the fields to the right and left have already been prepared. So there are hidden things, but roughly you see here how it's organized. All around us there are fields, and when we passed a barrier, there are trenches with mines and barbed wire inside. It's not very cute. Here, it's a position. There are the ammunition waiting for them, rather than carrying them with them. They know there are certain points where they have everything needed to protect themselves. To take shelter if necessary, there are the protection nets against Russian drones and suicide bombers. When they receive the order, they will raise their cannon, and after that, they have 3 minutes to leave. That is to say, the Russians, they have systems that we call counter-battery, the Ukrainians too. That is to say, when a shell is going to be fired, you have radars in front that will triangulate and will know the approximate position from where the ammunition was fired. That is to say, in the process, they too will fire shells, a Caesar shell. It takes 70 seconds before it arrives, the interest of obviously having a cannon mounted on a truck.
So that means they can leave before that.
That means they will be able to leave before the Russians have had time to leave. 3 minutes. That's what guarantees the Caesar cannon survivability, which is the highest of all the cannons we see here. Because it has wheels instead of slower tracks, and I wasn't even referring to the M777, which are stationary cannons. Which, they will have almost a third of the supplied equipment that has been lost, while we are barely at 10% for the Caesars. All the men around me have been mobilized, not voluntarily recruited. But they received training that lasted 3 months in Ukraine for the basics of artillery, and then 3 months of specialization in France to learn how to use the Caesar. They were deployed here from the beginning of last December. With a super interesting efficiency. Since obviously their goal, with this cannon that can fire up to 40 kilometers away, is to stop the Russians. 2 teams perform this task, drone operators and artillery operators. The goal of these 2 teams is to ensure that the infantry, which is on the front line, never has to endure contact from the Russians. In other words, the Russians are coming. They are detected by drone operators, they are destroyed by FPVs or by small bombings, and also by Caesar cannons. There are 2 types of French artillery used here. The AMX-10. Here, we are nearly 75 miles away from the Russians, still at a distance from kamikaze first-person view.
The Caesar cannons have a range between 7 and 40 kilometers.
They come here, they shoot, and then they go back. We'll provide precise positions, coordinates, and azimuths of distance to the thousandth of a millimeter of a degree, enabling extremely accurate targeting. The Russians regularly shoot at them when they return. Apparently, we hear sounds of drones.
We have to go, we're funny.
Okay, friends, we have to go. Now we're going to the operations center. Hey, it's closed. We're going to a headquarters to see how it functions. Let's go. So, guys, there's 1 week left here. They lack a drone jamming system which costs 4,000 euros. So you can support them because they really need it. It saves lives. The Caesars have not been affected so far because they can move very quickly, but it's important. Let's take the car again. So what happened when we were in the artillery position is that there was a need for support at one point. So one of the positions very close to the other one fired. The explosion we heard was quite close. Usually when shells hit us, we hear them coming before they explode. So it was our buddies right next to us who fired. And at the same time there was a Russian observation drone that was not very far away, that's why we went back. quite quickly on...
Oh, it was an exfiltration. Did you see it live?
to get far away from this area?
Because being only 6 or 7 kilometers from the Russians, it allows them to fire 30 kilometers deep into Russian territory. That, of course, is a big advantage from the Caesar cannon.
Come on, we're almost at the artillery headquarters. We'll explain how it works. So, we've arrived at the command center, where they will follow the targeting that will give the correction orders for the artillery.
This is where all the information will be collected, allowing them to see a lot of surrounding data. They will also know where the Russian observation drones are.
That is to say, they will be able to tell them, that's it, you can leave your position to go strike.
The efficiency is so important that they can afford to have only one cannon, and one cannon deals with the target.
And since the Russians do not, apparently here, have counter battery, that is to say they cannot detect the Ukrainian firing source.
Well, basically, the Ukrainians can hit 2 and 3 times, so it's quick, it's done in 5 minutes. During these 2-3 shots, they stay in the same place, correcting and shooting again. They still have over 100 rounds of ammunition available.
For an artillery position, so they have enough for a few days. There is no longer a problem with ammunition supply, so...
If we look at this picture,
it's the first shot.
so we have to do the
Shots.
As previously mentioned, the scissor is like a sculptor, however, the input is incomplete. If we talk about direction, if we talk about distance, everything depends on the handles and weapon handles we use.
So...
It's very hard to...
Because you have a lot of resources, it doesn't work exactly the same way as in...
other countries. In English, there are 2 wolves in the world. I didn't hear anything. The old Soviet systems... yes. And
NATO West 155.
that's why we have different shoes with different gloves. For the direction, it's always...
Doubled, but...
For the distance, we must adapt. Now we're collecting the fire. There is a tank. We see the tank. It is getting closer and closer. Yes, closer and closer. The third, I think, will be very, very... And
What?
is the distance...
Approximate of the Caesar?
You are 40 kilometers away from... Distance?
Yes, if we use special handles with an additional rocket mode, I don't have... moat, but with jet propulsion. It's a gas generation. This system makes chemical reactions and generates gas.
So it accelerates.
And this gas provides jet propulsion.
An addition of speed.
Generally, the flight time of an arrow can be 70 seconds.
And you use bonus arrows or that kind of thing.
We would like to, but we haven't received them yet. And what we need is to know how to operate with this thing. It's a program for the
Holders? See...
So it is easy to use.
Do you see a difference in the accuracy of Caesar regarding the Western system?
Yes, of course, Caesar is the best. For accuracy, he is the best.
Even the M777 from the United States of America?
It's a very good gun, but it was designed to work with Chinook, so you can't use aviation there. It's a...
Shot down.
Planes do not use...
Sensors.
Planes do not use a distance of less than... km because they will be...
Closed immediately. And how have you evolved? Have you changed? You were trained in France, you said it was good, but for Ukraine we need to adapt. Yes, of course.
Have you changed a lot of things? For example, your protocols?
Of attack?
Yes, describe.
The situation.
I was trained in France. The scenario is as follows. The team working with Caesar Shell comes one man down, and they... taking care of doing Takmad. I said, stop, guys, stop. If one arrives, the other arrives in 50 seconds. Okay, you should first Y.
Go away.
Go. Yeah, it's a sting to say it, but it's a fact.
One must be skeptical and
Practical. Then.
I'm going to lose the four of you and the weapon. Because it's a very different war.
yes, of course.
And what about the evolution regarding the use of Caesar, for example?
You use fire correction systems, but it's very complicated.
Very complicated, very slow, very complicated.
For the cost of your equipment, we can buy 100 drones, prepare for man, and do our...
Work. See.
It's a way to be efficient.
So we missed Kropiva?
We can do that too, but when we study artillery in the academy, generally Krapivar doesn't compute anything. It's just a fire table base. The only thing we can calculate is the corrections for the heat temperature, the heat weight class,
And each heat has a weight class.
Of course, that's all. I saw it, I just watched the stream, I saw where the heat was coming from. I looked at the goal and said, okay guys, to the left, 1 mile, 2 miles. The bottle is raised, that's it.
It's amazing.
It comes from experience, of course.
And when you shoot 100 marbles a day, Yup.
Do it?
Yes.
Let's go, we're following an operation. Due to constant bombardments, the Russians have gathered in a bunker with an entrance here, possibly in this building.
So we're waiting for the first shot to arrive. It doesn't usually shoot straight due to factors like wind, weather, and cold. And there will probably be a correction. We are waiting for it to happen. Okay.
So there.
You see the shooting gap. Here, instead of there, we're going to give the correction. And so on the Kropiva application,
Where has been
the shot. So you can measure it?
So the first one was here, about here.
Okay, so the first shot was here. We see the distance. We were 55 meters too far.
from his
Side.
and so he will be able to send
His corrections.
And then I give a correction. Okay, let's see.
The correction. Okay, so friends, so there, he just sent it. So it's the target number, etc. Even if it's WhatsApp, if someone intercepts the message, they won't be able to exploit it without the necessary corrections for their specific setup, like the shell type. And there you go. 530, for example, is the exit speed of the shell from the cannon, which is not exactly the same as you see here. 554. And that's why there's a small gap. It's precisely that between theory and reality there's a gap of a few tens of meters per second. So now we
are waiting for the second shot. With this correction, I remind the
first shot, it was somewhere over there.
We aim at the level of the white cross right in the center.
If the entrance is there, that might have been its target. I think there's only a 5-meter difference between them.
Even if the bunker entrance is that, it could have already been crossed. Do you need one more?
Another correction after this? Yeah.
I always need some corrections. Okay.
Another correction, see?
I hear the ventilations.
In fact, it's because there are holes underneath, so in fact we are hitting the Russians who are under this pile of sand. There you see the entrance and the small descent.
They are along this entire length, so their problem, the Russians, is that now they know they are spotted, but if they come out, they are dead.
This footage shows drones currently being used by the Russian military in their ongoing operations.
Moment.
Orlandis, a Zala, another Zala, a Scat, 350M.
Now the Ukrainians have the position of the Russian first-person view drones that have been shot. So there we know. It's a new piece of information that is really very, very recent on the front. That is to say, they know which area is targeted and they can warn people on the ground.
So Zala, we see that these are large observation drones, but
It's the FPVs that are moving, especially that one.
so Russian first-person view drones are now detectable too. So here you see we have the return of all the Ukrainian drones that are in the area.
We can identify their brigade there. Clearly the 155th, the Handakif Brigade, where we are located.
And we see gradually what they are doing. So there are some drones preparing for bombing. There we see guys who are walking around. So there it's a Russian who is
Being targeted. Do you see the explosions? No, it's the FPV. We said the...
here. FPV, so that it's a kamikaze drone. And so the drone we're observing gives the indication to the artillery or the FPV drone to go.
Strike it. So...
He's hidden in this house. So overall here, they say that from the moment there are vehicles arriving, they are instantly destroyed.
That's why the Russians send men on foot and spread out in the fields. The more they are spread out, the less.
A shell is going to kill a lot of people at the same time.